Alright, welcome back everybody to some more DCS with a little bit of little bit more off the cuff commentary here. Typically I like to do scripted videos and whatnot, but those take a lot of time and effort. And right now I'm feeling a little passionate about what's going on. So in the background is just some Tempest Blue Flash footage. As you can see, I'm flying the brand new RAZBAM F-15E Strike Eagle, doing strictly some cap. This footage is me doing some air-to-air because I just wanted to continue practicing in it. It's pretty intuitive, transitioning over from the F-15C to the F-15E. A lot of the stuff looks pretty much the same. There's certainly a significantly higher amount of fidelity, that's for sure. And you got to get used to some of the new symbologies and obviously the switchology. So this is the first intercept of the night, and this exemplifies one of the biggest problems in DCS air combat currently. As the title of this video suggests, the F-15E is great, and there's really only three problems with it, in my opinion, as it currently stands in this initial release build, and that is, one, the effects of jamming on it. I don't think they're fully implemented, which stems into more problems. Two, the fuel gauge breaks when you surpass Mach 1.4, so that's unfortunate. That's like probably the only super major bug that I really don't like. And three, there's a lot more clutter on the radar than I think really should exist, especially when I'm using something like chaffed ground moving target rejection. I can understand some clutter happening, but from real Eagle pilots, I've heard that, clutter popping up on the radar was just not a thing. And right here, I lose this guy because I go STT to start pouncing on him. It's a Mirage 2000 that's not using his radar whatsoever. You can actually see on the top right of the HUD, or on the top right of the screen with the EWR picture. So as you can see, he's jamming. I'm able to pick him up, and technically I'm in burn through, but as you'll see when I release this first Sparrow here in a moment, right there, flies off into nowhere. It's just not tracking, and the reason for this is because ED is not good at modeling electronic countermeasures. That Sidewinder just launched it without tone like an idiot. But I get the splash here, right there, boom, clean kill, and then pretty gentle. I say gentle, but 6-7 Gmax pull back up. But right there, that Sparrow, the Mirage 2000, and this is partly RAZBAM's fault. It's mainly ED's fault for having really terrible radar modeling, and especially electronic warfare modeling. But it's also RAZBAM's fault for not caring the fact that this is a problem, and it's been a problem for a long time. It's not like this is new. This has been a problem for a very, very long time. And that is blinking ECM. Now, the Mirage and the F-14, as you can see, I'm about to engage in F-14. The Mirage and the F-14 have automatic blinking jammers. The F-14 specifically, there's no way to do a constant jam. It's always going to blink. This F-14 here takes a really terrible shot at me. He's only like 22,000 feet up in the air, and he's shot at 20 miles. So I'm just going to crank it right here. I'm going back and forth between topics, but so basically, with this Mirage specifically, if you just turn on the jammer, it blinks so quickly that it instantly kills Sparrows off the rail, effectively giving itself a force field against semi-active radar homing missiles, which is simply unfair, because I don't believe it. I mean, sure the Mirage radar sucks a lot more now than it used to be because it's more accurately modeled. But it having just straight up a force field on itself because it's a jammer is just simply unfair in the game, specifically when it comes to PvP. I killed this Tomcat, by the way. He just stayed up high and kept pressing, and yeah, his first Sparrow did nothing because he fired it way outside of Mar, or way outside of a lethal range. So I just crank it, turn back in, and give him one at a lethal range, and then he just flies right into it. So thankfully that Tomcat wasn't jamming, but if that Tomcat was jamming, that Sparrow I fired would have never hit him, because the Tomcat has the same problem of the automatic jammer, because it blinks so quickly. Because what the issue here is that the missile itself, right, does not actually care whether or not your own radar has burned through the jammer, right? It does not care that your radar has finally gotten within a range that overpowers the jammer, and so therefore it shouldn't affect anything anymore. Now, you know, give or take, right? I've been really interested in radar recently. I've been reading some textbooks on the topic, which is why I'm so passionate about this right now. But the once you get to that burn through range, the jammer should have significantly less effect on the SAR missile, right? And especially on an active radar homing missile in mid-terminal or mid-course guidance. My bad. That's simply not the case, though, because as long as the target is jamming, the missile will always be home on jam. Always. It's never not home on jam. And with a blinking jammer, it forces the missile to swap between home on jam and regular guidance. But with the speed at which the blinking occurs, it's so fast that it just simply kills the missile guidance completely and turns it into a dud. Effectively, you know, as you saw earlier with that Mirage 2000, just making it impossible to actually kill with a radar-guided missile. It's not as much of the case with the AIM-120, the AIM-120C, and I believe the B as well, because I think they're on the same code. But it is 100% the case with the AIM-7 Sparrow, and I believe the R27R as well. Which is just sincerely unfortunate, because it's really, really ruining one of the best eras in this game, which is the Fox 1 era. Frankly, I think, you know, most of the game should take place in this, just because there's so much more, it's so much easier to model all these things in this like 70s, 80s, 90s period, prior to the AIM-120, prior to data link and stuff like that. But that's neither here nor there. But the fact of the matter is that there is so much public available knowledge and about how radars work, and even how jammers work. And I know people cope a lot about saying, oh, but it's top secret. Yeah, sure. The way jammers actually work, the way a specific jammer works, sure, that is top secret. This guy actually disconnects, but it's okay. You'll hear a Discord ping in the background in a second, because I was actually talking to this guy the other night, because I was helping him out with BVR, and he also said he would have lost, so it's okay. But I'm getting off topic, because I'm, again, unscripted. There's the Discord ping. There's so much public available knowledge here about how radars work, how it interacts with ECM, simplistic types of ECM, especially the type of ECM that is modeled in DCS, which is just straight up noise barrage jamming. There's nothing more complex to it than that. It's very simple, and yet they can't model it correctly. All right, there's so much public available knowledge on this, textbooks upon textbooks written on missile guidance using radar in general and stuff like that, and it sucks. It really is just unfortunate. Like sure, cool, these modules are nice and detailed and whatnot, but if core fundamental aspects of modeling in this game are not up to snuff, can you really call this a simulator? Can you really say that this is a simulator, right? The air-to-air combat in DCS has been suffering for a long time, for a very long time, right? and it's very simple to fix. In my opinion, it is very simple to fix. However, ED does not seem to really care about fixing it, at least in a timely manner, right? They spent a long time remodeling the AIM-120, and it's gotten to a state that's significantly better than it used to be, but it's still not anywhere near what it should be. It gets notched too easily. It doesn't loft even though you're in burn through against a jammer. Here, this is a clip right here that is also another problem that's very upsetting in this game. So this is a MiG-29A, right? So I know I can probably win him. He spikes me on the radar. I'm very fast and very high. I give him a missile at 20 miles. Not as far as I wanted to, a lot closer than I wanted to. So here I'm cutting back in to give him a second one, because that first one, if he defends it properly, it's not going to hit him. He launches his own R-27R against me. I put him in the HUD. Sparrow comes off, switch to Sidewinder, rip off the Sidewinder. And now, what I want you to see here, right? So I have him locked. There's a missile trail. You can see him up in the top right. He fires another missile there, and you see that puff? You see that puff of smoke that happens right up there? I'm gonna pause it. That little tiny puff of smoke up there. That, when I was doing this fight, right? That first smoke trail is an R-27R. The second smoke trail is most likely an R-73. And I saw that puff of smoke, and my first thought was, I killed him. I shot him out of the sky, right? Now, if we continue this clip, right, and you can see, and you can actually hear that he's no longer spiking me, right? There's no more launch warning. There's no more spike warning. So in my mind, I killed him, even though there's no flaming ball of wreckage as typical, right? As normal in this game, there's no flaming ball of wreckage. So as I'm cutting back in, I get an immediate spike and launch warning. I still have him locked on my radar, on my HUD, and I didn't even notice that, right? I get a radar lock warning, and then if you look out here, there's a missile coming right for me. And obviously it kills me because I'm just way too close. Now, if we pause right here, if we pause right here and we zoom in to the chat log, you'll see that me, Alamo Prez, in my F-15E Suite 4 Plus, killed an AIM-7 with an AIM-9L. That puff of smoke was my Sidewinder impacting my Sparrow just before the missile would have hit the target. Which, frankly, is, I mean, it's crazy. It's very unlucky. It is just sincerely unlucky. But it is unacceptable that something like that happens, right? Because something like the AIM-9, right, has countermeasure protections to help it out, right? To make it so that it does not go after flares. Now it obviously can, right? But countermeasure stuff in this game is literally a dice roll. There's nothing realistic about it. It is 100% just an RNG. When you drop one flare, the missile rolls a die, and through that die roll will say whether or not it spoofs itself. And the same thing happens with the fact that the missile motor on that Sparrow was burning, right? And even though the seeker head of the Sidewinder was locked onto the MiG-29, in mid-flight, it decided to just change targets to the AIM-7 and intercept the AIM-7, which ultimately caused me to lose this fight. There's just so many modeling problems in DCS, right? And I love this game, right? I really do. I really, really love this game, which is why I'm so adamant and vocal about some of the problems in this game. And this is this landing right here is just of the at the end of that first sortie. That last fight took place in a second sortie I did about a half hour later. But just to sum up my thoughts on everything, because again, this was a little this is a little out of you know, it's unscripted and all that stuff. I'm just kind of like getting my thoughts out there. The F-15E is great. It's an amazing module. I really love it. There's some very glaring, obvious bugs. There's problems with missiles not coming off the rail, specifically the Sparrow. For what reason, I still don't know. The ground clutter is a little too much, but that's okay. The fuel flow gauge breaks, and then jamming is ridiculous on the F-15. But as far as air-to-air combat in DCS, it's not an intolerable state, but it is so far from being good. It is so far from actually being well modeled. There's so many shortcuts, and there's so little actually sophisticatedly modeled. I don't even know if that's an actual word, sophisticatedly. There's so little actually done in this game with actual good modeling. There's so much available resources out there to model stuff correctly, right? And I can understand if it's like an engine limitation, but they wrote this game in Lua code, right? So I don't know anything about Lua code. I've just heard it sucks to actually code in, right? But the fact of the matter is, they can certainly do it. I mean, RAZBAM has straight up modeled like legitimate radar in this engine, right? With shadows and returns. Aircraft actually appear on the radar at different ranges because they have shifting RCS based on external stores, right? Like, they've been able to model that. They've been able to model radar shadow, like real-time radar shadow. And the fact that ED, the developers of this game, have not been able to do that themselves is I mean, in my opinion, it's unacceptable. And I'm never going to get a sponsorship or anything from them if I become like a big channel. And I don't really care. I just want a good simulation. I want a good game. I want something that I can like tell myself is actually realistic, is accurate, right? And I frankly don't believe that it's that hard to do, right? I've read the textbooks myself, currently am reading them. I don't see why it's so difficult to actually model things accurately, right? Even if you don't have the exact information because of classifications and whatnot, you can very easily make accurate guesses, right? Things that are true to the real performance while not having exact data, right? Like, it's possible, especially when it comes to radar. So, you know, like, I don't know. There's a lot of problems. There's a lot of problems with air-to-air. You know, countermeasures are a joke because it's literally all just a dice roll. Radar-guided missiles get notched and defeated like nothing when they really shouldn't have, because there's things like velocity and range gates, etc., etc. You know, heat seekers just get defeated because drop one flare or 50 million flares and you roll all those dice. So, yeah, but I don't know. I'll make some more, like, actual scripted good content on this stuff. I just wanted to talk about it for a little bit. So, I don't know. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And, yeah, I just want to thank you guys all for watching. I'll be making more Strike Eagle content. And, have a nice day.